Hey, welcome back to the show. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif, Halaby, Jeff Gerard, special guest Noel DeBose from New Orleans, Louisiana. Hurricane Katrina survivor, if you will. 10 years ago, Hurricane Katrina came about, and we ended up, as a community, Santa Clarita, coming around his family, helping him out, if you will, because that's what a community does. And, of course, they're back on their feet now. Noel, tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life today.
Today I'm retired 2 years. My wife is in the process of getting her retirement together. She will retire the end of this school season, which will be June.
Because she went back to the same district?
Yes, she did. She was able to regain her position with the Orleans Parish School Board. And our main goal was to go back home and finish, because at the time when we first got here, I had 30 years on my job and Denise had 25.
Wow.
And our goal, we was getting close to that 11th hour of retirement. And your expertise is really would really put us on the map, with your financial suggestions and capabilities really put us really back together, and we're here today to thank everyone once again, particularly you, Arif, and your family.
Well, thank you, Noel. I appreciate that. It's part of what we do, and it's an important part of giving back. A lot of you have talents out there. You have gifts in different areas of life, certainly things that I have no idea. But remember that there are going to be times in your life when you're going to need to use those, folks. Look, some of you are great at planning and bookkeeping and architecture and organizational skills. You have things that are good, and sometimes there's going to be somebody in the community that needs a little help. Goodness, sometimes it might be you, right? How many times have we been the ones in need? I can raise my hand. We've needed a little help, and that is nice when people step up and do that, because today, Noel, you have boys that are successful. They are productive members of society. That's a good thing.
That's correct.
And they all moved back to New Orleans with you.
Yeah, yes, they have.
And now part of that, guys, is there were two of them in school, and one had graduated?
Two went to Valencia High, and my oldest son went to College of the Canyons.
Okay, so he had already graduated high school.
Right.
Yep. So while he was here.
Yes. Dr. Van Hook over at COC helped us out tremendously. Gave us computers, IT support, which was great. Plus a vehicle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she offered us a vehicle. And that was remarkable. And all she promised us and, came true.
Wow.
And that was a remarkable thing for us.
Well, you've heard us praise time and again the College of the Canyons and the organization that we have, I think, one of the best community colleges in the nation. No question about it.
Yeah.
You've heard me, I've had plenty of criticism about the pay structure there. That won't be in today's show, but I want to be fair with the structure. I want to be fair with the system. And I still think, and you've heard me never put this down, it's one of the best community colleges around, and they have a heart, and you can see how we made a difference as well. One of the things that I want to get into, Noel, is when we are preparing for a disaster to come, because you always have to be prepared for that.
That's correct.
We always bring up things like keep some extra water in your car. You may not have to have a full case of water, but have a few bottles. You don't know what's going to happen if the water system if we have an earthquake and the freshwater system is compromised, and you may have to go without for a little bit. Additionally, if it's the winter time, keep an extra jacket. If your car, just keep something that's warm in the car, maybe gloves, maybe a jacket, something that you can just put in your trunk in a little emergency box. You don't know if you're going to be stuck on the side of the road, or if you can't get home, or where you might be sleeping that night. Times could be a little tough. But Jeff, one of the things that we talk about is a budget that builds in a savings account for emergencies.
That's right, because one of the first things we're going to need in a situation like that, if we don't have those amenities, is what? Money. And if our money is across town and we can't get to it, or if it's in an institution or a savings account with a company that has a due process before you can get to it. I mean, how many of us have money that we don't just keep readily in our pocket? We don't keep our entire life savings with us. So there may be forms you'd have to fill out to take some of those monies out. If it's a retirement account or a maybe a pension, you have a limited amount of access. And if you need money right now, I would say have, the first layer would be some cash that you can get to that you're not going to spend on, next month's sale at your local department store. Even if you needed a set of tires, I'm thinking if you're if you're saving in a true emergency type of account for a disaster recovery, I would say have that sole and separate of anything like that you would normally call an emergency account.
Yeah, cash is going to be up to what you think is appropriate. Some will say $500, some say $5,000. I know somebody that keeps a heck of a lot more than that at home, and you just have to say what is important to you and your family for emergencies so that you can pay cash. Maybe the electric system is down. Maybe the banking, the ATM swiping system, debit cards. So how do you build that in? Think carefully if you want to live or have to live for a week without having the modern conveniences of home. How do you do that? Now, you've heard me mention before about taking pictures of those important documents, driver's license, birth certificates, the same things that you would have in that metal box. I don't mind you storing them on your phone with the password protect. That's all well and good. But what about emailing it to yourself through a web-based email system? So if I picked you up, took your phone away from you, dropped you in the middle of wherever, Dallas, Texas, Austin, where Noel had to go in one particular evacuation, and you were able to go to a public computer and pull up your webmail, poof, what's there? It is your driver's license, your birth certificates, the same things that you have, certainly a copy of them, but at least you have access to that information. It's sent in a webmail system, held in a secure server underneath some mountain somewhere, and you can still access it, as opposed to just your phone, where you could lose it. Maybe the battery dies. Maybe it drops in a bucket of water or something.
You're so right. I mean, having this, you mentioned a box, but you touched on it a little bit too lightly. And Noel, I think you can probably attest to this as well, is having something that in the event of a disaster, that you're going to grab that box, and it's something that's hopefully waterproof, fireproof, and if something were to cause you to need to evacuate your home, it's got a list of something simple like your passwords. Maybe, and I know this is a prevalent thing. People do this. They put their passwords in their phones, which I think is kind of dangerous if it's not secured properly. However, like Arif said, if you lose that phone, where are your passwords? Okay, so great. So you're 236 miles from home, and you have to go to a library that actually has power and internet connection and a computer, and you want to start accessing some of your documents that you might need. Do you remember those passwords to that email? You know what I mean? So those things are really important.
One of the things, Noel, that we looked at is the emergency backup plan that all of us have as a family. But how about your credit card numbers? You can call up your credit card company and give them, through a series of verification questions, and get a copy of that. I think, is it American Express that'll overnight you a credit card just about anywhere in the world, or get it to you within a few minutes. And one of the most amazing things to me, I don't know if Visa or MasterCard does it, but I know American Express does. If you're in a hotel and your wallet was stolen, because it happened to a friend of mine in Rome, her entire purse, she was stopped, Rome traffic. Yeah. And they came, and bad guys, of course, saw that they were foreigners, or at least I'm sure assumed that, opened up the passenger door. They knew that women keep their purse at their feet normally. Sure. Opened the door, went down, and before she knew it, grabbed the purse and took off running in between the traffic. And then they separated the purse, real quickly. They threw out a wallet. So now you're chasing two people,
my goodness,
not one. And basically, they got away with everything, including the passports. And so, number one, she can go back to the U.S. Embassy, which is what they did. They verified some things, and they made a passport for her the next day.
Nice.
But cash, they went back to their hotel through a couple of questions with American Express, were able to actually have the hotel open a drawer of some sort and dole out cash money to them right on the spot.
My goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And American Express said, we'll take care of it. And the next step, however they compensated the hotel, I'm sure they gave them a general account number to bill it to, so that it was a charged account.
I gotcha.
But there is going to be a need for you to keep access to those numbers, passwords, etc. But also the insurance policies. If you walk into my office and you say, Arif, I have an account. It's with XYZ insurance company. I just don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's still valid, if we're paying it, how much coverage I have or don't have. I can pull up the phone number from the computer. We can call up the company's 800 number if they're still open. Usually they are. Through that process, I can get the exact information I need. Of course, they're going to verify it with you, some questions. But having that phone, the name of the company is the good start. Now, here's where the problem comes in. There are a lot of insurance companies that sound kind of similar. So we're dealing with one right now where the person doesn't know if it's this, and there's the words are front and back and move them around a little bit, and there's got to be a half a dozen different companies. We just don't know which company exactly it is because they all kind of sound the same. So do some research on that as well. Noel, one of the things that we look at is creditors. They were used to getting a check every month.
Yes.
And we had to make some phone calls.
We sure did. Yeah.
And generally speaking, were they understandable? Were they understanding?
Yes, I would say for the most part they were, because being a national disaster, it wasn't like we was making this up.
Yeah, right. And they could Google your phone number, or your address, I should say, and see that where you are.
Through the efforts of we were able to work out something with the mortgage company and the second mortgage, because at the time we did have a second.
Yes.
And we worked out something with them, and they was willing to work with us.
So be aware, guys, that creditors are also, of course, part of the solution, if you will, and you need to make sure that they're on track. If you've lost your job, if a disaster has come through and wiped away your earnings, or you're now subject to not having the things that you need, work with your creditors. Give them phone calls. Keep them updated. Sometimes they'll send you, in fact, I know a couple of them, I think the mortgage company that we worked with, because we had one other person who was involved with the New Orleans disaster as rental property, and there was a mortgage company that set up a special hotline specifically for Katrina disaster survivors. And I think that it's funny, you could call through a menu sequence, and for a lot of companies, they still had that on. If you're a Katrina survivor, press 4.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they still do, but I know they did for quite some time as it was working through the system of messes, if you will.
But really give this some thought. And the reason why is because let's say you're not experiencing a disaster that's of Katrina magnitude or nationally recognized, but locally it might be devastating to you and you can't leave your home. You might be in a rural place where you don't have access. There's one way in, one way out, and a lot of these things could be enormous roadblocks for you. And you could go from tier 1 credit, lots of savings and a great job, but if you can't get to that job to make money to pay your bills, you could very quickly go into the quote unquote poorhouse, so to speak.
Right.
In a matter of a couple weeks.
What is the one thing you think you did, Noel, that really protected your family overall, financially speaking? Of course, getting out of the way was very important, but what was the thing you did differently that you think made a difference?
Really, the big difference was once we met you, because we were in the fog, so to speak, and really didn't know where to go at the time because it was all brand new.
Yeah.
And brand new to the fact that we lost everything. Well, it wasn't brand new that we were running, from hurricanes, but we was in a position where we had never been before.
I remember looking at Denise and how it was the same as having somebody suffer a tragic death in their family, that's immediate and instant. And just the shock in her face. And I remember she actually said something to that effect, that the emotional ability to overcome that was she was still dealing with it when we first met. She still didn't know what was going on.
Right.
It was a tough go, but thankfully she's thriving. You're thriving. The kids are thriving.
Right, and all thanks to the coalition, yourself, and the people that became our friends. That we have friends here now.
Yeah. And isn't that funny? Across the halfway across the country, a disaster brings you to a group of people, and
you don't know.
That's right. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. You don't know if they're going to welcome you with open arms or not. Or
exactly.
Isn't that weird? Yes. And it happens, and suddenly you're there.
The senior citizens group with Brad Barron.
Yeah.
and Dr. Van Hook, your family, and Valencia High School. The morale of them is what really kind of brought us up.
Well, I think it's the booster club that Linda DeFilippi helped organize. I don't know if she was the president or what her position was, but she really was a big part of it.
Her son had gone to Valencia the year prior to the hurricane, and when she read the newspaper article, that's what prompted her to come to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it takes people like that. Isn't it funny how all of us in our lives are right on the edge of doing something, making a difference, stepping in, but we're just not pushed. But then suddenly a leader pops up and says, okay, I'll do it, follow me. And then the folks that are sitting on that line or right on the edge say, okay, I'm over, I'm jumping.
Yes.
And it leads a group of people down a road. I always put Carl and Jerry Goldman in that group because they tend to be right on the edge of saying, I'm ready to go, let's go. And people will follow. And that's, I think, a true leader. And in doing so, you guys could have been not nice people, right? You and Denise, you could have been selfish or just this pure victim running around with a big V on your chest, trying to. And that's not what you guys were. You were gracious, you were hospitable, you were kind, you were funny. Oh my gosh, some of the stories, guys, I'll have to tell you later. And the difference is that you made it easier for people to work with you and to deal with you across the board, and that was helpful.
Good. I'm glad we were that accepting to you all. And there was other people that became our friends also. Sharon Mastro, her son was attending Valencia High at the time, and he was their ride to school, every day. Her son was, giving our sons a ride to school every day, and that helped us out tremendously.
It's you don't really understand this pure devastation until you see a fire that has gone through, I think it was Northern California, the one that just wiped through hundreds of homes.
Yeah.
And you take a look at this picture, and it obviously looks like a bomb has dropped. Or you take a look at the pictures of Hurricane Katrina, and they were everywhere. It's not as if this happened in the 20s or the 30s where you get one or two stories. This was countless, probably hundreds of thousands of images of Hurricane Katrina, and you get a sense of the disaster. But you never really know until you are in the middle of it, where everything where's that extra? Oh, hey, where's that outfit? Oh, I need that. Remember that little thing that and those things are just gone, and some of them are gone forever.
Right.
And you have to rebuild your life, and that's a little scary. So the images, folks, that you save on your phone, the pictures, put them in a safe place, download them somewhere, put them on a server, then back them up somewhere. Those kinds of things, those are part of your life.
Coming to Valencia was a place that we kind of came and met our guardian angels to some degree. Because once the word was out that we were here, it was like everybody came out, and they was more than willing to help. And I could say thank you to everyone that did, and that was all a part of rebuilding our lives. And as it turned out, we did pretty good, compared to others. And
well, you got to think about coming out of retirement and opening up a Louisiana, New Orleans style restaurant right here in Old Town Newhall.
That sounds good.
Because the one of the meals that we shared with you guys, and we've shared quite a few over the years, but if you've not had the food, traditional, real food, not something made out of a can,
right,
from New Orleans, it's life changing. And you tend to be a cook, I think.
Yeah, to some degree, but I like cooking.
Who's the cook in your family? Is that
Denise.
Denise, you think?
Okay. Yes. I have my times where I'll cook certain meals, and she basically cook certain meals also.
Yeah, so she has her specialties, you have yours.
Yes.
Well, folks, one of the things I want you to do is to remember a couple of things. The Disaster Coalition for Santa Clarita is here to help. There's a whole structure of folks that have made a difference, and it isn't sitting around in this huge group. There's a lot of people that are on the periphery. Can I say that with braces?
You did.
It's very difficult.
You did. You got it done.
All right. You know what I mean. It's on the outside. It's on the circle, the perimeter. There you go. I can say that. And they're here to help. You know the fires that we had up in Sand Canyon, Sand Canyon, the fires. We also had the fires in Clarita Canyon that kind of wrapped around. Remember many years ago how that looped? We had fires on pretty much all the surrounding valleys. We also had the fires at one point up by the radio station in Canyon Country off of Camp Plenty.
That's right.
And that actually burned one of our clients' homes were one that burned. And it's funny in the sense of ironic, the 6 months before, they came to us, and part of our financial planning stuff at the time, if you will, was to sit down and to look at the various insurance policies and said, you know, we're property and casualty licensed. We don't offer it as a product, but we do kind of take a look at it and see how we're going to integrate that into your life. And I said, you know what, you're kind of low. You might want to increase some of that. And lo and behold, by increasing it, when their fire burned to their home burned to the ground, they were able to receive an enormous amount of money that compensated it, paid off the mortgage, gave them another start in their life. So you're going to see that happen with time, folks, that if you don't bring your limits up, and we'll cover that on a different show, but you need to bring your limits up from your homeowners and your auto insurance. So as you go through this part of your life, if there's a disaster, you have the financial means to step up and take care of your family. The other part of it you're going to need is that emergency savings. When we come back, we're going to get into kind of a wrap up, if you will, of some of the different things I want you to have in your car, some of the different items that are ready to be taken at a moment's notice, and things that I want you to be able to have somewhere in the cloud, if you will, servers, way in the back. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. Arif, Halaby, Jeff Gerard, special guest Noel DeBose, right from New Orleans. On your place for news, talk, and information. Arif Halaby, Jeff Gerard on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the show. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Arif Halaby, Jeff Gerard. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour is about saving you money, helping you get out of debt, plan for your future, make sure retirement is going to happen when it happens. And, a lot of that is about preparation. We talked with Noel DeBose over the last hour or so about Hurricane Katrina. Everybody knows that. 10 years ago, Hurricane Katrina hit. What was the date of that? You remember by chance?
August 29th.
August 29th. Just passed, folks. 10 years ago. It seems like yesterday.
Right. We're still talking about it.
I was so much younger. 10 years younger. Exactly.
Younger than you are young now?
I don't remember ever being that smart 10 years ago because, I don't know. Something happens. As we get older, folks, we might take for granted the fact that some disasters haven't actually come through and wiped us out. But the preparation is still the same. I want to go over a list of things that I think are important to you. And I think with that plan, Jeff, we've got to remember two things. Number one is emergencies don't have a schedule.
That's correct. I can't tell you how many times with the amount of children I have, it's been so much easier, and I don't think this is even on your list, but it's been so much easier just to let everybody pile into the car just to go get donuts or get breakfast and come back. But what my wife and I have always said is make sure you guys have a pair of shoes with you. You don't have to put them on. You may want to run barefoot to the car, and that's okay. We've just let that kind of suffice as the solution. We're not going to wait an hour to let five little kids put their shoes on. But we said you have to bring them in your hand because if we're stuck on the side of the road, we can only carry one of you.
That's right.
So make sure you have that type of thing with you. Think through that because, like you said, there's no schedule for a flat tire on the side of the road.
One of the things that I think matters the most, guys, is in your life, you're going to have an opportunity, if you will, to step up to the plate, not just for yourself, but for those around you. The Disaster Coalition is certainly an organized group of people, but neighborhoods, you guys have done it. I can tell you a story about a man named Tom who was up in Saugus area, and you guys know who you are. You stepped up and came around that man, helped he and his family out to a story that would only be found in a book or in a make-believe, Hallmark for TV type show. Right. And in fact, it did happen in a neighborhood for a man and his family way above and beyond whatever got any media attention. So you guys, you do it. I want to encourage you to continue to do so. But here's how you take care of yourself and your family. Number one, in your car, I want you to remember to have water. maybe 2, 3, 4 bottles. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. My kids keep much larger. They keep a case and kind of whittle through that as they need some water, and then replace it with another. It's $3, folks. $3. You can stop and get a bottle of water for $1.50. Have an entire case in the trunk of your car for $3. Secondarily, especially during the wintertime, I want you to have some warm clothes. Maybe a jacket, closed-toed shoes, ladies. Maybe you wear heels to work or you wear flip-flops around town. That's fine. But Jeff, I think you were right on the button. I forgot I haven't had small kids for quite some time. But having an extra pair of shoes in the car or something that's closed-toed shoes in case you have to walk across rubble, gravel, glass. In fact, I'll get to this one just a second because I just remembered this part as well that I actually do. Next, I want you to have a credit card with you. If you're going to always max out your credit card, you're an irresponsible person and shouldn't have any debt. You shouldn't. Because what the heck are you doing spending tomorrow's money today? Now, we all make mistakes. We all get there. But you need to have a credit card with you where you have $500 or $1,000. You can get a hotel room if you need to. You can rent a car if you need to. You can buy gasoline. That's important. And if you're not there, get there. This doesn't have to happen overnight, but get there. Next, I want you to have backups of medication. Keep some of that at home. Keep that with you in your car. Keep that with you in your purse or your wallet or your briefcase. You never know when you're going to get next to that. How about your house? Social Security cards, birth certificates. Have some extra cash. Cash with you at home, of course. I mean, in your car, or as far as on your person goes. But keep some at home. Marriage certificates, pictures, diplomas, things like that are important as well. Next to your bed, let me tell you what I do. I have a pair of shoes that are pretty big. They're casual shoes, tennis shoes. Just set them next to my bed in case I have to get out of the house and it's in the middle of the night. My tennis shoes are on the other side of the room. And I also keep a fire extinguisher. If you need to get to the children, you need to get to the exit, both on my side of the bed and on my wife's side of the bed, there's a fire extinguisher underneath our beds. Look, a fireman once told me that that's the way to do. When I was a policeman, I rolled to a house, and a couple people didn't make it because they didn't have that. Last thing is, remember this. On the web, have copies of everything. You can email it to yourself, and it'll keep yourself and your family safe. Thanks for listening. Arif Halaby on AM 1220 KHTS.